The subject I've chosen for our talk this afternoon is enjoying the search for your life's purpose. And when I've been discussing this with people, I find that most people would love to know in detail their life's purpose, simply because it adds, or potentially adds, a degree of meaning and fulfillment to their life. And I've been asked this question by many, many people, and I'd like to share it with you. This is the questions I've been asked. Can you please, Ray, suggest to me how I might start the search to discover my life's purpose? And because that's been asked of me many times, I thought to myself, well, I wonder what we do. I wonder how can we actually answer that question? How do our churches, how do our centres, how do our mediums, how do our tutors, our mentors and speakers answer that question? And the question's been actually asked by new inquirers, regular church attendees, and existing church members. And it's a most interesting question, because there's a lot of people now are asking that question. Most spiritualists would, in my view, be comfortable with accepting that our individual guardian spirit would like to assist them in their exploratory journey to discover such a purpose. I'm also aware that many people are so busy with life, working, raising children, and just day-to-day living, that they don't really have time to think about their life's purpose. And so I'd like to share with you an experience that happened to me about 5 years ago. I was attending an evening dinner party, and there were 8 guests, and I was one of 8. There's 5 guests I had not previously met, although I was told that they have some interest in mindfulness and yoga and related things. And so my long-held view regarding sharing with strangers the philosophy of spiritualism is as follows. Be helpful where you can, but try not to convince people. Let people convince themselves. And try not to convert people. Let people convert themselves. And as we progressed through the dinner, after the main course, just prior to dessert being served, 2 of the dinner guests started enthusiastically talking about a book they had both recently read. And the title of the book was a New York bestseller back in 1984, and it was called You Can Heal Your Mind by Louise Hayes, which is a very, very popular book. And in the course of general discussion around the table, I made a comment. And the comment I made was that I thought this was a very, very interesting book. And so the conversation continued to go around the table. And then I was asked what particular areas of the book I found of interest. Bearing in mind we're still talking about life purpose. And so I shared with the fellow guests at the dinner party that on page 10 of the book, You Can Heal Your Mind, Louise Hayes writes that we choose to reincarnate and we choose our parents. And the comment that I made met with a mixed but interested reaction. And we discussed the role of parents in our lives. Now, so what I've decided to do this afternoon is to add on to the searching for life's purpose, expand that subject to include the possibility of reincarnation. And by doing this, we link into some very, very interesting areas. And because this area of reincarnation has been spoken about and referred to on our church platforms, I'll only briefly elaborate, but my views that have been indicated, or the views of people that have been indicated to me are as follows. People are either for it, against it, don't want to know about it, or alternatively they don't have time to consider the possibility. Many people have said to me, well, in addition to my life's purpose, well, why am I here? And interestingly enough, the subject of reincarnation, in my experience, receives less than significant coverage when we talk about aspects of our philosophy. But it's very, very interesting to note that a wonderful teacher, Silver Birch, whose instrument was Morris Barbanel, he subscribes to a belief in reincarnation. And if we follow that through, in my opinion, it's reasonable to assume that our own personal guardian spirit knows our purpose, and deep within our soul, we know our purpose in relation to seeking growth opportunities. But for me, it's a very simple process. Could it be part of the overall planning process, which I think it is, that takes place before we reincarnate, that our soul knows the purpose? And then that follows on to, well, what do we say to the new inquirer? And how can we help them along their journey? We can invite them to consider the idea of meditating. They can pray for guidance and then just wait patiently. And alternatively, we can deliberately ask our spirit guides when the time is right to reveal to them their life's purpose. And perhaps this is going to happen in a dream. Essentially, I see it as being a retrieval process where we simply put in place mechanisms whereby we can invite spirit to reveal to us. And then I was asked the question, is there a particular book that someone could read? And I've mentioned a book by a man called Brian Weiss called Many Lives and Many Masters. And the good part about it, as I've referred to on previous occasions, is that there's always wonderful YouTube videos. These videos can go from 10 minutes to 50 minutes, and they relate to these subjects, which is rather marvellous. Now I'd like to introduce a new concept, and I've read about this concept many, many years ago, and I recently read an article about it, so I thought I'd like to share it with you about our purpose and about the subject of having a fulfilling life. And it's called the spiritual holiday concept. And it's a concept that when I heard it, I thought, that is marvellous. That all makes sense to me. And so I would like to just share it with you. There's also a woman who talks about this subject called Suzanne Diesman, who was a former US Navy commander. And her daughter died after being hit by lightning. And you have to ask yourself, what are the odds of being hit by lightning? However, she resigned from the Navy and trained, and now she's a very well-known medium. And the centre of this concept is very simple. They take the big picture, the helicopter view, and what they're proposing is this. Could it be that our principal place of residence is really in the spirit world. That's our principal place of residence, not necessarily our 2 or 3 or 4 bedroom home or unit that we may live in, say, Doncaster. So I'd like to now just take you on a journey. You may have travelled extensively, or you may know people who've travelled extensively. So let's just assume you go on a 3-week holiday from Victoria to Bali. And at the end of the 3-week holiday in Bali, the normal thing is for people to pack up their suitcases and then they return home to their residence in Doncaster. So essentially it's a loop trip. You leave Doncaster, you go to Bali and you come back. And that's all, to my mind, quite straightforward. But I'd like to invite you to consider this process. Let's reverse the process and adopt, as I mentioned earlier, a brand new viewpoint, and that is that our principal place of residence is really in the spirit world. Could it be that we take regular holidays from the spirit world and reincarnate into our earth plane? The only difference is instead of a 3-week holiday, we're talking about a long-term holiday of 70 years or thereabouts. And so, in the spirit world, with the help of our spirit colleagues, could it be that we specifically book this 70-year holiday back to Earth to fulfill a particular purpose, in particular our life's purpose that we've been talking about, to gain additional experiences and to gain personal growth? It's a bit like a loop trip, really. We leave the spirit world, we travel to Earth, say Melbourne, and then after 70 years, we pack up at the end of our holiday and then return back to the spirit world at the correct time. I'm very much aware that this is a concept that not everybody's is willing to consider. However, it makes sense to me. And actually, could it be that we take a series of long-term holidays? So it could give us a new perspective regarding the position when we pass on. At the 70 years of age, we're just assuming 70, we simply come to a time where we finish our holiday and we prepare ourselves, so to speak, to get ready to return to our principal place of residence in the spirit world. And so I've often said and invited the new inquirers and the people who are asking these questions simply to be open to the idea that when the time is right, it will be revealed to them as to their correct purpose. And so, in conclusion, I would just like to thoroughly endorse the view, and let's enjoy our current life to the max. It's exciting, it's challenging, it's rewarding, and at the same time, if we have a situation where we can encourage people to think about their life's purpose, then potentially, as I said earlier, to me, it's going to be a fulfilling and marvellous experience. So with those words, Carol, I would like to conclude and pass the meeting back to you.